What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Never Lag. I'm one of your hosts, Levi, joined by the sensuous man who fell in the pit, Zach. How you doing today, Zach?
I'm good. That's quite a way to introduce me. Accurate. Accurate.
Accurate.
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you doing, Levi?
Good. I'm feeling sensuous, so ready to
Good.
talk about some video game news. I forgot to light the candles behind me, but yeah, this is This Week in Gaming, the podcast where we sit down and talk about the things that happened in video games in the past week or two, since we missed last week. So a whole smorgasbord of stuff here to go over today, and let's get into it. Let's talk some games. We've got I always forget to count, 8 stories and change, some free stuff later in the show, some review roundups to get to. Story number 1 I want to chat about is the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Third Party Showcase Mini that happened. Mini, ultra mini. No, I'm just teasing because it had like a million little subtext to the title of what this was, all kind of designed to suppress the hype. I think was the goal. The more words that like made you think, okay, Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid and Mario are not going to be here, the better. Was Nintendo's thought here. So
Nintendo's Direct Mini Third Partner Tiny Sliver Showcase. Don't show up. Don't
super
even
unexciting. Check the recap later. Showcase Mini.
Yeah.
So that happened a few days ago, and actually, I think it was not half bad. Surprisingly, it was better than what I've come to expect from Nintendo showcases. So I'll do a quick rundown. This is not extensive, so go check a full list if you need to. Just some of the main points here I'll run through, and then we can chat about anything of interest. Nier Automata is coming to the Switch on October 6th, so we're getting another port. We got some more information on Mario plus Rabbids, the sequel. The release date is going to be October 20th. So that's cool. We got a little bit of gameplay. It's looking pretty good. We got some news on the Monkey Island. I believe it's a remake, right? Coming to Switch consoles first. So it sounds like it'll be PC and Switch later this year. And also looks kind of cool. Portal is finally on Switch, which if you had asked me, is Portal on Switch, I would have said yes, probably 3 or 4 years ago. But now it is. So if you're one of the very few people left who haven't played either of the Portal games, you can now do it in the bathroom. Persona 5 Royal. This was a big one because this happened at the Xbox showcase as well. There was a lot of rumors that perhaps this would be coming to Switch as well, and it turns out it is. Persona 5 Royal, as well as 4 Golden and Persona 3 are all making their way onto Switch October 21st of this year. So now pretty much everyone, no matter where you are, can play the Persona games, which is cool. No Man's Sky is coming to Switch October 7th, which, I mean, we can get into. That's kind of impressive. And then the last one of note I threw in here, there was a new reveal of an indie game called Blanc, which looks pretty cool. So those are just kind of the main points I took from it. Where do you want to start? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, a couple of things here. Nier Automata that's a game that I want to have played, if that makes sense. A lot of people rave about it. I started it 4 years ago, and I was mildly enjoying it. A little strange, but I think intentionally so. I would like to finish it at some point. As ever, I don't know when I'll get to it. I find the Switch is a really helpful console for me getting through games that I've been meaning to get through, because it's something I can take with me on the go. I have kids, so I'm often like, I can't always be sitting down at my console or my PC. So it's nice to have Switch as an option for a lot of different games. So that's kind of nice. Mario and Rabbids, I never played the first one, so I know people like that, so I guess that's good. Portal is neat. I'd like to play Portal as well. I feel like half the time I buy games on Switch, I already own them on Steam or PlayStation.
Yeah, that's everybody, man.
It's
Switch's
kind of a racket.
market.
It really is, and I fall for it every time. I think the 3 I'm really excited for now, but Persona 5 and No Man's Sky are both games I would love to play on the Switch. I don't know how Persona I think will work fine because it's like an animated style. I'm not as worried about the fidelity, and that's another game I started, got 10 hours into, and never finished. So I'll probably play that on Switch at some point. I really want to go back to No Man's Sky now that it's become amazing over time. I don't know if Switch is the right place to play it though, but it's kind of nice that it's on there. Um, yeah, and then Blanc. I just watched the trailer before this. Blanc looks really great.
Yeah, yeah. I thought Blanc was kind of a standout for me. I mean, we just put out that video of 15 games you might have missed. There's been a lot of indies over the summer games showcases that are coming in the next year, really piling up. But here was another one to throw on the pile, and I thought this looked really cool. It looks like it's going to be an adventure puzzle game, and apparently I don't know if this. I guess this was in the trailer. I originally watched it without volume, came back and watched it with volume. It's going to be a co-op game, so you can actually couch co-op play it with somebody, which just super cool. The art style looks awesome. It's all kind of like hand drawn, monochromatic, pencil on paper kind of look, but not quite as rough. And yeah, I think that game looks really cool. Let's see. As far as the list goes, I have played Nier Automata. I don't know. I say it differently every time. I that was one of those games where it's like everyone raves about it, and I was like, I have to play this game to know. And sure enough, I forced myself through it. I played, I think, the first 3 endings, maybe more. I can't remember. And it just never really clicked for me. So I don't know. I'm not going to be one of those people out here telling you have to play Nier, but others would argue. So Mario plus Rabbids, haven't played that either, but all I've heard is that it's just one of the best RTS games, which is hilarious. It's so funny that this crossover is like apparently a really good game. And another common thread through today's show for everyone taking notes at home, all of you taking notes, which there's got to be just so many of you. The thread throughout today's show is my fantasy team is going to destroy Zach's fantasy team at this point in time, because this is all good news for me and bad news for Zach. I have Mario plus Rabbids on my fantasy video game roster. Fantasy Critic, that's what it's called. So that one's shaping up pretty good. Monkey Island, I never played the original. There was some discourse about the new art style that they're using for this remake, it being different from the original or whatever. But I gotta say, it looks really cool. It very clearly reminds me of, oh my goodness, every time I get on here I space the name, but it's the Metroidvania Guacamelee 2. It looks exactly like that art style. I literally thought, is this a Guacamelee game? But it looks really cool, very stylized, very cool art they're using there. Portal, not much to say there. Persona 5, I agree. I think that'll run fine on the Switch. That seems cool. I'm currently working my way through Royal on PlayStation, and yeah, it's good that everyone has access to those games now, especially the older ones. I mean, people that love Persona, those games have been hard to play for many years now, and the fact that they're now making their way to pretty much every console is only a good thing. No Man's Sky is interesting because I feel the same as you. Like, I don't know if this is the place to play it. I watched a video of I forget the creator's name. I don't know if you remember it, but he was like sitting down showing gameplay of No Man's Sky on the Switch, and I gotta say, it looked really cool. Like, this game has made such a transformation, and I do intend to go back to it, but I do think when I do it, it will be on PC, just because I don't want to see it running at, like, what is it going to be on the Switch? 420p probably. Who knows? So, but it's cool that it's a, if it runs somewhat smooth, that's an impressive feat that they got it on that console. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. So not a bad direct. I think the overall sentiment was positive. For some reason, people were able to keep their expectations in check for once, because they called it a Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Third Party Showcase Mini, and everyone was happy.
What underhyping things can do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, companies try it all the time and it doesn't work. People are still like, oh, they're still going to announce God of War Ragnarok 3, and they
it's kind of a lose-lose situation.
Yeah. So anyways, there's the Nintendo Direct. Our second story is actually basically three review roundups we're going to run through here of some games that came out. So our first one is going to be, actually, I'm going to start down at Outriders Worldslayer. Did you play Outriders
I
at
played the
launch?
tutorial. I
So
didn't get
yeah,
much
so
farther than
basically you
that.
did.
Okay, yeah. What I played was kind of neat. I it didn't enthrall me. I obviously didn't play more than a handful of hours. I was interested enough that I want to know what happens with the franchise, and I'd like to think I'll play more of it. Just with an abundance of games in the backlog that I haven't got to, it hasn't been a priority. And kind of, I think the reception has been a little bit mixed, which is hasn't helped me prioritize it. But it looks kind of neat. The trailers I've seen for it look good. Um, yeah, you played a little bit more than me, right?
Yeah, I don't remember how far I got into it. A handful of hours, maybe 10 or less, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't special to me. I mean, there's people that like it. I like that. I agree with the sentiment that I like that it was a first person looter shooter or I mean third person, but a looter shooter that was not trying to do the whole loot boxes or just like trying to take your dollar everywhere you go. Like it was just a game that came out and you
Mm-hmm.
play it, and that's all it was trying to be. I appreciated that, but I just didn't really. I didn't have fun with it. I thought it was at least trying to do something new with the gameplay. I mean, it's very aggressive gameplay. You're constantly being bombarded and flanked by enemies and taking damage and trying to keep your health up. It's a very aggressive play style, kind of like the first person version of Bloodborne, I guess is how I would maybe equate that. But anyways, Worldslayer is an expansion for Outriders that just came out. It's sitting at a 73 on OpenCritic and a Metacritic of 75. So very, very mid. Let's see. Screen Rant gave it a 3.5 stars. And do I want to read this whole paragraph here? Not really. We'll go to the next one. Travis Northup at IGN gave it a 7 out of 10. And much more succinctly, he says Outriders Worldslayer doubles down on everything from the base game, both the good and the bad. And that's pretty much what I've been hearing from everyone. I watched Skillup's full spiel on Worldslayer, and he kind of said the same thing. He said it's reductive to say it's more, that it's just more Outriders, but it really is. So if that's what you're into, that's cool. Part of the barrier to entry on this, I think, also is that they've priced it, I believe, at $35, if I'm remembering correctly, which, in 2022, it's kind of hard to pitch a $35 expansion to a game maybe not a lot of people are playing and that requires co-op. So it's like, if you want to jump into this, I got to get you and another friend and maybe another friend to all buy this expansion and jump in. So I don't know. I hopefully it'll come to Game Pass maybe sometime and more people will be able to enjoy it at that point. But if you liked Outriders, there's more Outriders for you. From there, let's go to Monster Hunter Rise, which I don't know why I said it that way, but Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is the new expansion that recently came out. And as Monster Hunter tends to do, sitting at an OpenCritic of 87 and a Metacritic of 86. Did it fall to an 86? It was like at an 89. Oh, that makes me a little bit sad. So have you played Monster Hunter Rise?
No, I have not. I played Monster
Me
Hunter
neither.
World a couple years ago.
Oh,
I think you and I both played that for a little while, and it was pretty good. The kind of the hub world system wasn't my favorite. Like, I wish it was more of a true open world. My cat is like trying to get in front of the screen. I wish it was more of a true open world game and less of a you take a bounty, screen loads, drops you in a specific level or area. But the fights were cool, very hard, but very cool creatures, cool environments. I'm like vaguely interested in the series, but at the same time, haven't played Rise. I don't know that I'll be playing Sunbreak. What about you?
oh yeah, totally the same. I probably will never touch this game, but in our league, I was like, Monster Hunter gets good numbers, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick that one. And sure enough, it was at an
Mhm.
89 when it started, and I was like, oh yeah, but it's fallen to, I guess it's only 87 right now.
Yeah, it's
Not too bad, but
still doing well.
yeah, Game Informer gave it a 7.8 out of 10. Um, John Carson, he says, I've had a great time with Sunbreak overall. The lack of new monsters plagues the early hours, but there's plenty of love if you keep at it. And then let's see, Ryan Gilliam at Polygon, um, Unscored. He says, with so many good brawls in Sunbreak, it's frustrating that it falls victim to one of the biggest villains in AAA video games, bloat. I'd much rather see Sunbreak offer a shorter campaign with more of a focus on new monsters and give me the option to fight Master Rank versions of the original roster at my leisure. But instead, I spent the opening hours of the expansion bashing familiar foes just so I could get to the good stuff. As such, playing Sunbreak feels a bit like unwrapping an exciting present covered in too much tape. So, with these reviews in mind, I'm happy to have 87. Hopefully, it doesn't get any lower than that. But that review right there kind of gives me flashbacks to Destiny and how I got so tired of like every time a new Destiny expansion comes out, they ask you to do 20 hours of the same stuff you've been doing just to get to the new content. And so that's frustrating, but
I don't have time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that, but apparently people have time for it because people love Monster Hunter and this has a great score. So moving on from there, the most exciting for me personally, we finally have Cuphead, the delicious last course reviews. They're in. It's out, sitting at an open critic of 87 and a Metacritic of 89 currently. So hopefully we'll keep that one because I also have this in my fantasy critic league. How did you feel? Well, I guess I'll ask you again. Did you play? I'll ask you again so you can say no. Did you play Cuphead?
No, just kidding. I actually did play Cuphead. I didn't finish it though, so it's sort of a negative answer still. I liked what I played. The art style's incredible. The soundtrack, it felt like such a weird mix of like a 1930s cartoon mixed with a modern video game. Super challenging. So I played it, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago when it was kind of a thing. And back then I was still a baby and I didn't play hard games very much. And it was really hard. I think my wife beat it. Or she certainly got a lot farther than I did. So she really enjoyed it. I liked it. I beat a couple of the bosses. I don't remember exactly how far I made it in. I totally recognize why it's a great game. I'd like to finish it at some point, which is, you'll hear me say that a lot on this channel, but I'm excited that a DLC came out. DLC looks great. I think the reviews are pretty consistent that it's more Cuphead, but it's more quality Cuphead. The bosses are all awesome. Looks really great. I don't know if we'll get to it because I still have to finish the original, but I know you love Cuphead. So what are your thoughts on the DLC?
Yeah, I mean, I can't claim that I finished it either, which is kind of weird because I really do love Cuphead and I love difficult games. I played it way back on PC back in the day because I think that's all it was out on at first. And I got probably 70% of the way through the game and for some reason fell off of it. I think part of it is that I love difficult games, but I kind of like the exploration mixed in, and Cuphead lacks that. It's very much a boss rush game for the most part. But I fully intend to go back to it. People have been waiting for this DLC for forever now, which I think really speaks to the fact that the art style is fantastic, incredibly unique. You can tell so much effort goes into the art style for this game. And I think that's why it takes so long, because this DLC we're getting is getting great scores. But as we'll see here, it's not terribly long. And the fact that it took this long to get it out, I think really shows just how much care is needed to make a game with this art style the way that they do it. So yeah. Chris Carter at Destructoid gave it a 9 out of 10. He says, I wish that we got more than a few hours worth of stuff, but the nature of the delicious last course augmenting the original game means that it'll impact every timeless future playthrough. If you hated the game before, the DLC won't do much to change your mind. If you loved it, you should probably pick it up immediately. Mitchell Saltzman at IGN gave it also a 9 out of 10. And he says, Cuphead, the delicious last course, is not just more Cuphead. It's more of the best type of Cuphead. The 6 new main bosses are all incredible from both a visual and design standpoint, making this DLC expansion nearly essential for any Cuphead fan. So, a bit of diverging, same scores, kind of diverging thoughts there, but yeah, I've heard that too, that the 6 bosses that are in this DLC are like maybe the best 6 bosses in the game now. So that's always great to hear. You love to hear that, especially when the game is about bosses, right? So I'm definitely going to pick this up. I'm going to head back to it. I did pick it up on PlayStation at some point, I think last year, and never really got back into it. But I've kind of always been thinking about heading back and trying to grab the platinum, which I hear is very difficult. And
You and those platinums, man.
The masochistic person that I am when it comes to trophies, I will no doubt end up doing that. But I'm looking forward to jumping into this DLC. And yeah, great game. Glad that it came out and it delivered. It sounds like. Okay, story number 3. Let's talk about Metroid Prime, and this is kind of your territory here. But apparently, there's a rumor that we're going to get a Metroid Prime remaster this year. It's coming from Jeff Grubb, and he mentioned that Nintendo is planning a Metroid Prime remaster later this year, calling it a big boy remaster, supposedly arriving in November for the 20th anniversary of the game. So, curious to get your thoughts on this. This is news to me as of today, since you threw this in the document. But that's so interesting. Do you believe this? First of all, do you think this will happen?
I don't know what I believe, Levi, but I want to believe it, so that's why I included it. I will say Jeff Grubb seems to have a fairly good track record. He's plugged in with a lot of different game development folks, and it seems like he has a generally a good sense of things. Also, the 20th anniversary of Metroid Prime feels like something notable, although Nintendo is so inconsistent with how they celebrate games. And that, I don't know, it almost feels like it's not true because of the thought of them releasing a good product for a 20th anniversary. But it would it makes sense, and that's why I'm not sure if it's true about Nintendo.
Exactly.
I will say a remaster of Metroid Prime would be awesome. I loved Metroid Prime on GameCube. I've wanted to play it again for a while. I haven't got around to it. I pre-ordered a Steam Deck, which I may or may not get sometime by the end of the year. And I was going to emulate and play Metroid Prime once I maybe have that someday, but maybe this will come out before I get a Steam Deck and I'll just play it on Switch. Allegedly.
You were allegedly going to do that. Yeah, we cut that story from This Week in Gaming, but apparently there's more Steam Decks coming. So they're doubling production or something. I too have placed my 2 schmeckles down on hoping to get a Steam Deck at some point, but we'll see on that front. Yeah, same. I kind of have the same sentiment. I kind of believe this until you tell me it's the 20th anniversary of the game, and then I'm like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah, if it wasn't Nintendo, I'd be like, that makes total sense. Of course this is true. With Nintendo, it's like, this is too obvious. Yeah, it would be cool if it happened. Metroid Prime's awesome. Also, I mean, they're working on the new Metroid, like 3D Metroid Prime entry for, I don't know if it'll be for Switch or whatever's next. That we haven't seen much on that. We saw the Splash logo 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer.
Yeah, and then they rebooted it in 2019, I believe.
Then they rebooted it. So we haven't heard a whole lot, but eventually that's coming. So maybe this is meant to kind of tide people over and get people excited again for the future entries into the Metroid Prime franchise, which I'm all about. So I would happily purchase a remaster of Metroid Prime. I hate giving Nintendo for games I paid for, but this is an example of one where I will do that.
They called it a big boy remaster. Does that get you?
Jeff Grubb called it that, going? Which is it does. It does. I think
what's a
I don't know exactly
remaster.
A Little Boy is just a really annoying remaster. It's
so a normal Nintendo remaster is a Little Boy remaster.
Is a Little Boy.
We're apparently getting a big boy remaster here, which I assume he's trying to say means it's from the ground up and not just a putting lipstick on a 20-year-old game.
On a little boy, right?
Oh, gosh,
I'm just working with the metaphors we have available, Levi. No, I think that's it. I think there's some level of rework implied by a big boy remaster. So, or maybe there's a big boy that you fight is Samus. I don't know.
Yes, let's take this very literally. If this happens, I will be excited because I didn't actually play. I've played like snippets of the original. And all I've heard is how fantastic it is. But you know how it is. People tell you like, oh, this game is better than sliced bread, which for some reason sliced bread is amazing. But And then, if you miss it when it happened, you can't go back without those rose-colored glasses of nostalgia and
Yeah.
experience the same thing someone experienced when they were 12 in 2000 or whatever. Like you just can't. You miss the
Yeah.
boat. That's kind of how I feel about these older games, and I would love a chance to get to play Metroid Prime for the first time, but like updated. That would actually be really cool for me. I hope this happens. And like you said, it makes sense. 20th anniversary. They're trying to maybe drum up some interest again for those who never did play the original. Now that 4 is hopefully coming sometime in the 2020s. So it makes sense, but then you remember it's Nintendo and they don't do things that make sense. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. I guess we'll see what happens later this year. Okay, story number 4. Sony. This one is just Sony is pushing further into PC, and we're seeing some more pieces of evidence about that. So this one is coming from, oh no, I've forgotten the website. Cameron at, I believe this is the Game Informer. I'll have to double check that in a minute. But it says Sony's in-zone gaming monitors and headsets are for more than just PS5 gamers. So Sony is essentially coming out with a new line of monitors as well as headsets, which are designed to both work in tandem for like their PS5 console as well as for PC gamers, kind of bridging that gap. So first of all, what do you think about Sony's push here from what you're reading into creating their own lineup of monitors and headsets that are like not just for PlayStation 5?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It makes sense, right? Like Sony is not a company that only caters to PlayStation customers, like is a company. So I guess I'm not
Not
completely
anymore.
surprised. I'm not because I mean Sony has all like they've always done all sorts of devices. Um, yeah,
Yeah, but they've never been commingling with PC until the recent
not with
years.
PC, not with
So
PC. I think it makes sense. Like, why would they pigeonhole themselves? Also, if you look at their kind of approach with developing more games on PC, like it kind of speaks to the trajectory they're seeing, and I think they're making more of their games available on PC earlier than they used to in the past. I don't know if it's totally surprising. I'm kind of curious, like how big of a bet this will be for them. Like how far in will they go? Will it be successful? I don't know. What do you think
will
about
they
it?
will they come out with a new lineup next year or the year after that? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far
Yeah,
this will
like will
go.
does this become like a regular thing, or is this like how much of an
Yeah.
experiment is this?
Does this become one of the main players every year when
Mm-hmm.
there's new monitors that come out or whatever? So yeah, it's interesting. The InZone M9 is their flagship monitor. It's priced at $899. It's a 27-inch 4K IPS gaming monitor. It's built to match the aesthetic of the PS5. So they're kind of catering, like we said, they're catering to
That is
both.
kind of
They're
cool.
like, hey, if you have a PS5, you should get this monitor because it goes with the PS5. But then they're also like, out of the other side of the mouth, they're like, this is a PC monitor. You should use this with PCs also. So they're doing that. And then let's see, it's not an
And
OLED.
I have to say, their hardware design's generally pretty great, and the PS5 looks awesome. Having a
Yeah,
matching monitor would be really neat. Even if I'm using it for my PC,
that's
would
true. You're
really
going to buy one
tie
now.
the room together. Yeah, you
Yep.
sold me, Sony.
Your third monitor. So it says it's got all the bells and whistles pretty much you would expect without an OLED panel. 144 hertz refresh rate, which is notable on a 4K screen. That's not terribly common. 1 millisecond response time. It's got VRR, G-Sync compatibility, so just all kinds of stuff here. What's kind of interesting about this entire story, so actually they have two different models of monitors. They have the M9, which is their flagship higher end, and then they have let's see if I can find it. It's the M3. I'm getting lost in here, but basically it's a 1080p cheaper version of this monitor, right? So you've got the M9, the M3, 4K 1080p. Okay. Then they're also coming out with these new headsets, which are distinctly different from the headset that is specifically for the PS5. They're in every way. They look different. They're much more comparable to the like higher end headsets you would even price that way, like $300, I think, or $200. I can't remember. So higher end. And what's interesting is that for the headsets, they have three different models. They have the H9, they have the H7, and they have the H3. And the only reason this is interesting is because they have 3 tiers of headsets, but notably there's no M7 of the monitor. There's no middle tier of the monitor, which this whole story really for me is just to say, why does Sony hate 1440p gamers? Like it's been years of people asking for 1440p update on the PS5. It does not support it. And then hilariously, they're coming out with monitors and they have a 4K and a 1080p monitor and no 1440p monitor, which makes sense if they don't intend to update the PS5 to work with 1440p, because that would be kind of hilarious to have a monitor that the PS5 doesn't work with. Be bad for your brand. But equally so, I feel like it's bad for the brand when it's like, it feels very clearly omitted. Like, where is the M7? And I just don't understand if there's like if we're seeing some sort of PS3 technical anomaly that can't be fixed, where the PS5 just can't work with 1440p for some reason. But I just find that funny. I don't understand what's happening over at Sony headquarters and why they refuse to cater to that middle tier resolution.
They hate the middle tier and everybody in it.
The middle class resolution gamers.
You're probably right. There's probably some technical reason. That I can't think of any other reason that would be super compelling. So that would be my guess if I had to make one. But
yeah, I mean, how hard could it be? I don't know. Come on, Sony.
That's always the question.
Grief. How hard could it be? Well, you know what? And even if it was incredibly difficult, like, that's what these large corporations, they have the money and the people to make it happen. So it feels gross when it's just like, come on, these people want 1440p, give it to them.
They have to use their corporate resources wisely. How else are they going to invest in crypto and pay to earn gaming?
Pay to earn gaming.
You got to make sacrifices.
NFTs.
If you want to have. You got to make sacrifices if you want an NFT gaming marketplace.
Yep. All right. Well, anyways, I complained, but yeah, PS5 or Sony's coming out with some branded monitors and headsets. So if you're in the market and you want something for, like me, you've got a PC, PlayStation 5 setup, maybe that's something that would work for you. So there you go. Number 5, not much of a story, just a tiny story here. Plague Tale Requiem. We have a bit of an update that happened last week. We actually got the release date, which is going to be October 18th, 2022. And we had talked about A Plague Tale Requiem because of the showcase that happened. But here we got the release date, and we also got a new gameplay trailer, which was several minutes long of just straight gameplay. And so I'm curious. You were pretty high on this game already, kind of excited for it. I can't imagine this gameplay trailer lessened your excitement for it. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, it just reinforced my excitement. This isn't like top of my list excited, but I thought it looked kind of neat. I've been keeping an eye on it, and then the extended gameplay was really cool. It felt high quality watching it. You're kind of third person up close behind the two main characters, the woman who I would guess it seems like that's who you are as the protagonist, and then the small child that you're with. And the ambiance felt really good. Like I felt immersed in the world just watching the gameplay footage. And it was tense too. Like at one point you're on the run from like the king's guard who is hunting you for some reason. And his voice was super intimidating and kind of had really strange and cool effects on his voice that kind of follow you and echo behind you. The visuals look great. The gameplay looks fun. It looks like a mix of kind of like stealth, evasion, action, and then like there's obviously a large narrative component to the game. But overall, feels very immersive. It's not the type of game I would ever think that I wanted, like a 1700s plague story. And yet, seeing it all come together like this, I absolutely am excited to give this a try. So I'm excited. I thought it looked great. You mentioned you weren't quite as high on it. You seemed like you were kind of just indifferent. How are you feeling after the 12 minutes or so that we got?
It's funny you mentioned that you're not sure this is like the game you ever thought you wanted. I think that's kind of my holdup with this game, is that like the setting doesn't really do it for me. And so it's kind of overcoming that for me personally. But I have to say the recent gameplay that we got was pretty impressive. Like I came out of it being like, okay, I might have to play this game. We'll see. I was getting a lot of just like you said, the quality of the visuals and everything, the animations felt very Naughty Dog. Like I was getting Uncharted
Yeah,
or
totally.
Last of Us
Hmm.
vibes, especially with, the adult protagonist with the little kid, maybe some God of War, kind of like getting those feelings, but in like a very Last of Us gameplay looking situation. So, um, kind of some interesting horror elements as well. Like you said, it's very, very tense, which I guess you could argue those games were also very tense. But looks like there's going to be some interesting gameplay mechanics from what we've seen. The little boy, I don't know if he did much in the first game or was just kind of like like you're just trying to keep him safe and it was difficult to do. But in this game, it sounds like he, for some reason, can interact with the plague of rats in some way and maybe control them or use them to um, somehow identify where other enemies are throughout the area. So um, looks like they're introducing different gameplay mechanics that the kid can kind of partake in alongside you as the older sister. So it looks interesting. It looks very interesting. Coming out October 18th. Again, another game that I have in our fantasy critic league, which is shaping up to. I
It's
very much
it's
see
gonna
this in
be
the
a
mid to high 80s.
it's gonna be a brutal end of the year for me in terms of
It's funny. It's funny.
fantasy critic.
Early on, it looked like you were just gonna wipe the floor with me after Breath of the Wild got delayed, and you
I know.
counterpicked that and everything. So,
I got overconfident,
anyways,
and I am
you
being
did
humbled. I'm in the process of
right.
being
It's
humbled.
before a crash, before the
Hmm.
fall.
No.
So, anyways, we'll get back to news. Sorry, we're gonna get back to the news. I know everyone wants to hear more about the fantasy league, but we have story number 6 to talk about, which is Zach. How would you feel if I offered you a Persona TV show?
The
That's
the
the end.
make or break uh, to this question is this an anime show or is this
That's
live action?
that is a good question, and the answer is flip of the coin. But you still have to say yes or no.
I'm gonna, I, I'm gonna say no. Probably if it's a flip of the
Yeah,
coin.
yeah.
Here's my thoughts on a Persona TV shows. If this was an anime, this could be cool. I mean, it basically is an anime that you're playing, right? So I don't know how necessary it is an anime, given that Persona is a game exists. Although I think you voiced the opinion that you'd maybe love to just watch the Persona story as an anime and not have to go through all the gameplay. But as I, I don't know anything anime trying to make that live action. How do you do that in a way that's not weird? Like
Cringy.
how does that not cringy? So that's kind of my thoughts. I like
Yeah.
Persona, but
Oh, so, anyways, this story is coming from Matt Kim at IGN, I believe, and it's basically that Sega is looking to adapt Atlas games for live action TV and movies. So there's kind of your answer. Doesn't sound like it's
mhm.
going to be anime. This includes Persona, as well as Shin Megami Tensei and Catherine. So, and other things. But I was focusing in on Persona, and how dare you spoil my thoughts 30 seconds before I say them. But yes, I've been playing through
We
Persona
can do
5.
some editing magic and put it in the right order.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been playing Persona 5 Royal. It kind of feels akin to when I played Nier Automata, in that I'm playing this because so many people love this stinking game and just are like vehement fans of this game. And I'm like, all right, let me get in here. Let me see what this is about. I'm a decent ways into it, approaching probably 20 hours. I've been dabbling over the last month, and it's okay. It hasn't clicked for me. I'm not loving it. I'm kind of like, it's kind of like what it was, that open season where he tries the coffee and he like hates it. He's like, oh, this is magical and horrible at the same time. That's kind of how I feel right now about Persona. Like I keep coming back to it. I keep kind of wanting to, but I'm not loving it. And as you play Persona 5, there are parts of the game where it completely cuts away from the the in-game engine, and it literally just cuts away to an animated anime cart like show for 30 seconds a minute to show various points in the story. And those times are when I'm enjoying Persona the most. Like I find myself sitting there being like, can this just keep going? Can I just watch this game? Because I'm not terribly enjoying the turn-based combat yet. Um, many of the game mechanics. I just kind of like the characters. I just want to watch them. And so I thought this was interesting because I'm like, this comes out pretty soon after I was having that thought. Live action, though, I don't know. Like you said, if they do this in live action, it has to take a completely different feel. Like, you can't try to mimic the exact same feel as an anime in live action and do it very well. Like, I don't know, this is probably a bad example. I guess it's kind of an example, but like, think of the Avatar movie, Airbender movie, compared to the show. Like, how hard was it to cast Aang? And also, that was just a terribly done movie. But
it's a bad example because that's also the worst train wreck of a movie in general. But it is
well, but that's like what can happen. That's what can happen when you can't capture the same vibe in live action.
They did Dragon Ball Z a few years ago, and it's the same thing. I didn't watch it, but it's just seeing the trailer. I was like, no, no, thank you.
So, I mean, as with anything, these projects really come down to if the right people get a hold of them, and if they do a killer job with it, it could be awesome, right? If I had told you, hey, they're coming out with an Arcane show, would you have been like, oh, I bet that's going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened? No, but they did an incredible job with it, and it's one of the best things we've ever watched. So it really comes down to that. And all of this is so hypothetical. This is like Sega's just like, hey, if anyone wants to make a show, come talk to us. So it's not like it's happening anytime soon. But interesting nonetheless. If we have terrible Persona takes, let us know in the comments if you want this show or not. We'll see. Maybe we'll get it by 2030, like most of these things. Number 7. Our 7th story is a sad one, a somber one. And it's somber specifically for you, Zach, as Sea of Stars has been delayed. Their official Twitter account tweeted this out. A word from the team. As we are closing in on a very big milestone, the road to launch becomes clearer, and we find ourselves here with a large body of text and our logos at the bottom, keeping in mind our 2 main priorities: quality of life for our team and quality of the finished game. We can now confirm that Sea of Stars will be released in 2023. And then they go on to say, we understand waiting is a big ask and want to sincerely thank our community for the overwhelming support and positive vibes. In the meantime, we are looking at options to get a playable slice out to everyone this year. All the love. Sabo team? I actually don't know how to say their developer name, but there you go.
Saba teams? I don't know.
Saba team? Sabo? You know what? Probably should have edited that before we started the podcast, but that's
like
not how
Saboteur. I don't know.
There you go. So, Sea of Stars, there you have it, delayed to 2023. I say this is somber for Zach because this is, in fact, on his Fantasy Critic League team, and honestly, was looking really cool. Like, I thought it was a great pick.
It does look
I'm
cool.
usually not a big fan of the more pixelated 32-bit, 16-bit, whatever style games, but this one is kind of capturing that essence while still looking kind of modernized. I don't know. It's not like Octopath Traveler, but it kind of gave me the same sense of like, I can play this. It looks beautiful. The world looks very dynamic and open to explore. I was really liking a lot of what I saw from this game. So a bit of a bummer that it's being delayed. So yeah, go ahead and tell us how sad you are.
Very sad. Yeah, it's funny when companies put out these statements and then say things like, we know it's a big ask for you to wait. Like, I don't know that it's really that big of an ask, like, to have to wait for things. That's the default for life. There's a lot of stuff to enjoy. These things happen. Like, I would love if game developers could always hit their targets with precision and accuracy on first try, but I would rather the game take the time it needs to be better. Kind of the usual thing everyone says, but we'll see how it is in 2023. I still look forward to checking it out. Maybe I'll re-add it to my fantasy list next year. So better luck next time.
There you go. Just keep adding it every year until it comes out.
Yeah.
You know what? That reminded me, as you were talking about, like, it's not a big ask to wait for games. I must have accidentally
contextual, but yeah.
Right. No, totally. But I must have deleted this from the document accidentally. So I'll throw it in here because we're just shooting from the hip. There was all this God of War drama this week, and has been for a while, right? As everyone continues to wait for this elusive release date. Has it been delayed to 2023? We get reports it has been. We get reports it hasn't been. Jason Schreier came out this week and said that apparently they were going to announce the release date on the 30th of June.
Today.
Those plans have since yesterday, depending on when you're watching this, 4 years ago, if you're watching this 4 years from now. And apparently those plans have since vanished, changed, but that from everything he's hearing, it is still planned for 2022. And then this was later corroborated by the face of the God of War franchise, which is Cory Barlog, as he tweeted out that I look up Corey's tweet really quick while I talk about this. But basically, Cory was just saying that he wishes he could say more about the release date. He wishes he could say all these things, but he just can't just yet. Just be patient. And then someone else commented, like, just tell us it's being delayed to 2023 so we can move on with our lives. And he said it's not. So all signs pointing towards God of War coming out in 2022. But this just reminded me of it because you said it's not a big ask to wait for a game. And it's just kind of funny, the sheer amount of drama that exists for just waiting for a God of War release date, essentially, at this point. So did you find it?
Yeah, I did not. I'm looking at his Twitter right now. Okay, so he says, "Dear all, if it were up to me, I would share all the information when I know about it, but it is not up to me." I like how I say no and then immediately find it. He says, "If it were up to me, I would share all the information when I know about it, but it is not up to me. So please be patient. I promise things will be shared at the earliest possible moment they can be. We make games for you. We get to make games because of you." Heart emoji. And then he has an animated GIF of Baby Yoda, which goes a long way, I think. But
it really does go a long way. You can say heinous things and then put a GIF
really
of Baby Yoda and get away with it.
In all seriousness, it's a fair thing to tweet. I mean, these things happen. Like, I will say I relatively trust Santa Monica Studios. And, you know, it's frustrating to hear that things might be delayed, especially if this is also on your Fantasy Critic League, Corey.
Nah, this one's coming out, man.
Now, I think this one's coming out. Also, you know, I don't know. It's still early enough in the year. I think they don't want to set themselves up with a specific. Though? I mean, it's June still. I don't think we didn't get super specific dates for like the PS5 the year that came out.
It's true. And the original God of War 2018, we didn't get the release date, I don't think, till 3 months beforehand. So we could honestly get the release date at the end of July or early August and still be good. Right. So I
would say if we haven't heard something by early September, then I'll be very concerned. But,
oh yeah. By the end of August. August is the last.
I think August is kind of so, you know, if we get to end of August, early September, and we haven't heard anything, then I actually might start to wonder if this is actually slipping. Until then, I would imagine, you know, especially these bigger studios, and, you know, God of War was a phenomenal success. They're trying to avoid a cyberpunk situation where they don't hit their dates. They create a lot of ill will. So they're kind of between a rock and a hard place, I think, but
a lot to live up to. And I sympathize with the developers. I think people who are being mean or over the top about this, I mean, just get your priorities straight, let them do what they're going to do and get the game out. But I will say, to me, this a little bit speaks to a bigger issue I continue to have with Sony, and I've probably voiced over and over again, but like his tweet there, I just can't help but feel like he's strapped to a chair with his hands and legs tied, and Sony's just off camera with like a gun to his head, you know? And it just feels that way with Sony. It's like, why is everything so secretive and quiet and non-communicative? That I'm getting tired of. I'm not really frustrated with Santa Monica. I am frustrated with Sony as a whole, and I wonder how much of this has to do with Sony more than Santa Monica. We may never know.
Yeah,
we may never know. Yeah. But we're still waiting on so much information from Sony. I mean, we got that killer showcase in 2020 for the PS5 and all the games. I mean, just probably one of the best showcases we've ever gotten for video games. And they've had, I think, one showcase last year in State of Plays, but it's kind of been like that person who's really good at saying a lot of things, but not really saying anything. That's kind of how it's felt to be a fan of Sony for the last 2 years. Is they just haven't said, like, they've come out with State of Plays, but they really haven't said anything. Like, we're still waiting for all of the information on what these studios are working on, how close they are to things. So that's my only frustration, is I just wish Sony were way better at public relations and had kind of a face of their company that was communicating with the fan base and stuff. But to Santa Monica, just take your time, do your thing. Well, I mean, we'll get a release date soon, I think, here, and I do think this will be in our hands before the year ends. So,
and to fans, stop sending weird explicit photos to employees at Santa Monica.
You saw that too, man.
Yeah,
I was scrolling through Corey Barlog's Twitter, and every time I'm like, man, I should get into Twitter more. And then I would scroll through his thing, and I'm like, oh my god, Twitter is such a stupid place.
Twitter's a cesspool, but I mean, the internet at large has those issues, but Twitter, it's a highly concentrated.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, if you're doing that stuff, don't do that. That's horrible. It makes you a terrible person. It's also not necessary. Send your explicit photos to Sony headquarters. Just kidding. Don't do that either. Don't send them to anybody.
Send those explicit photos of your ears right to Sony. Right. To I forget his name, but he asked for them, so it's okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, that was story number 7. Sea of Stars has been delayed. But yeah, moving on. Story number 8. Let's get to it. This one is another sad one. Tony Hawk, the man, the person, says that remakes for Tony Hawk 3 and 4 were scrapped by Activision. Oh, man, that hurts to hear. This is coming from Andy Robinson at Video Games Chronicle. It says a planned remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 was canned due to Activision Blizzard's decision to absorb 1+2 developer Vicarious Visions. That's according to the Pro Skater himself, who claimed during a live stream on Monday that Activision had briefly taken pitches from other studios, but allegedly wasn't happy with any of them. And let's see here. This is a quote, I believe, from Tony Hawk. He says, that was the plan. Even up until the release date of 1 and 2, Hawk said, we were doing 3 and 4. And then Vicarious got kind of absorbed. And then they were looking for other developers. And then it was over. End quote. What the heck, man? We've come back to the story periodically as the months go on, because there's always a story about that further shows how bad this was, that they got rid of Vicarious Visions essentially. And man, this just sucks. The fact that Vicarious Visions was absorbed into Call of Duty, which at the time was depressing. We were all like, what are you doing? They have created some of the best remakes and remasters we've ever seen of games we love from our childhood, and you're going to just throw them, basically dissolve them into Call of Duty. And what's done is done. I mean, they're pretty much, I can't imagine Vicarious Visions exists anymore. It's not as if you can extract them back out of Call of Duty. It's been too long. People have probably left. So Vicarious Visions is gone. And it's just so nonsensical what happened here. They put Vicarious Visions into Call of Duty, and then they're like, oh, we still want to do 3 and 4, but then they couldn't find another studio that they trusted to do it. It's like, what? It makes no sense. Just have Vicarious Visions continue to do it. I don't know. I'm angry. How do you feel?
Yeah, same. It sucks. I like Call of Duty. It's a machine that will keep moving regardless. Like, it's such a waste to absorb a studio like Vicarious Visions in to support Call of Duty. Like, you can always get game developers in to support the machine. Like, I would love to see another Tony Hawk. I'd love to see some of these other games that we had expected. We saw similar issues with, was it Toys for Bob? Like, just stop taking good studios that make great games that we love and just putting them behind the ever grinding wheel of Call of Duty that will continue to churn no matter what. So it just feels like a waste. I don't care that Call of Duty is continuing to get made. Great. I'm happy for Call of Duty fans. No issues with that. But like, let's stop taking great studios that a ton of fans are expecting things from and putting them towards something that is going to happen regardless. That's how I feel about it.
That's definitely the feeling. It's just like, I just can't imagine you needed specifically Vicarious Visions to work on Call of Duty, whereas you and the entire world needed Vicarious Visions to work on Tony Hawk 3 and 4. Like, the remakes 1 and 2 were phenomenal. Like, they perfectly captured, they played exactly like the originals, and they were the definition of a perfect remake. And we were all hoping for 3 and 4 and maybe more. But I know for me personally, I played the most of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. That's the one I have. I still have it for PlayStation 2. Those are the levels that I remember the most. And it just feels like we may never get it now, and it just makes me shed a single tear for what could have been. So there we go. We'll end our
Pour one
stories on a
out.
depressing note. Yeah, like we like to do, but we do have more. We do have more because there's things that are out this week. In addition to the aforementioned review roundups, obviously Cuphead DLC is out. Outriders Worldslayer DLC is out. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak DLC is out. I just realized these are all DLC. I did not even realize that when we were doing this. In addition to that, out this week we have MX versus ATV Legends, which I don't know much about, but it looks like a fun game. F122 is also out, where you can race cars. Don't know much about that. And then one I do kind of know more about and am looking forward to, and I honestly forgot that it was coming out so soon, is the Escape Room Academy, which was shown off at one of the showcases. I think it was the developer, what's it called? The
Day of the Devs.
Day of the Devs. I think
it was
that's
Day
where
of
it was
the Devs
showed
as
off.
well. Yeah.
And so this is essentially an escape room game. They said they couldn't find a proper escape room game, so they decided to make one. And I believe that this is co-op as well. I think you can play this with someone else. So early impressions are good. People seem to be liking this game. We'll report back. But it's one I was kind of looking forward to. It looks like it's going to have a lot of different puzzles throughout the game. Hopefully it hits. To round it out, we have some free stuff to talk about since it is the end of the month starting July here. Mostly the PS Plus lineup for June is official after leaking a few days ago. We're getting Dark Pictures Anthology Man of Medan, Crash 4, It's About Time, and Arcadegeddon, which is dropping day and date. It's with its release on PS Plus. So not bad. A lot of people, sentiment is good around this lineup as well. It's frustrating. You know, it's always a shot in the dark whether or not you own these games or not, right? If they're good. So for me, I've already played and owned Crash 4. Arcadegeddon, I'm curious about. Have you seen much about that game?
Nothing now. What is it?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well-timed sip. It very much feels like a Fortnite Fall Guys type of situation where it's like this kind of party atmosphere and you're playing games with your friends and shooting paintballs. I don't really know what all it is. It looks like it's a grand mixture of gameplay, kind of akin to a Fall Guys type situation. That's about all I know about it. It looks interesting. Part of me wonders if it's going to go the way of I forget the multiplayer racing game that Sony came out with at the launch of PS5, but it pretty much died immediately. And I kind of wonder if that's going to happen here, especially with it being paid. Like the fact that it's on PS Plus means it is not a free to play game, which is an interesting decision after looking at it. It feels like this is very much a free to play looking game. But there you go. PS Plus, you'll have it. I mean, I'm sure maybe we'll check this out, play a little bit of it, see if it's good, see how bad the monetization is. And if you have not played Crash 4, it's about time. Go play Crash 4. It is phenomenal. Like we talked about earlier, Toys for Bob knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's very true to the original Crash games, and yet it's the best Crash game we've ever gotten. It is just perfection from start to finish. It plays perfectly. Visually, it's stunning to look at. The levels and the different filters they put on the levels when you play them in certain modes. Just an awesome game. So go play Crash 4. In addition to that, not much over on Epic. I mean, things have calmed down. They're not releasing their big hitters anymore. But right now, you can go grab Hood, Outlaws and Legends, which came out, I think, 2 years ago and is like a PvP, PvE focused Robin Hood type game where you're trying to steal something before the other team can, is basically what it seems like. So you can check that out. And then I don't know much about Iratus. I think it's like a kind of a turn-based game is the most I know about that. And then Gene Forge, Mutagen looks like you're breeding monsters and dinosaurs and trying to rule the world in some form or fashion. Looks interesting. Those are there if you want them. And then keep an eye on Prime. There's quite a few free games right now, as well as more coming for Prime Day. So there will be a lot coming down if you have an Amazon Prime membership. Keep an eye on that. Right now, there's things available like Serial Cleaner, which looks fun, Far Cry 4, the original Escape from Monkey Island. There's like 15 games available right now, so go check that out if you have access. And that's it. That's all the free stuff. Xbox Game Pass has new stuff, but it's pretty quiet this month, so nothing terribly to call out. So that'll wrap it up this week in gaming. You have anything else to add for free stuff out this week? Otherwise,
no, I think we got it.
Sweet. Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us for this week in gaming, and hopefully we'll see you next week when we also do This Week in Gaming here at Neverland.